I'm getting more and more emails from young people in their 30s, late 20s, 30s, early 40s, like with colon cancer, breast cancer, and all these kinds of things. But look at our diet and lifestyle situation today. Those things that I'm talking about, lack of exercise, a lot of stress, poor sleep, bad food, all of this kind of stuff impacting parts of our bodies.
So what do we do about it, though?
Know about it.
And then what do we do? So I know now.
That's personal choice. I'm not here to take pieces and jelly donuts off the market, for sure, or breakfast cereal. I love that stuff, too. But the question is, I don't eat it every day. And I know if I do, it'll kill me. So yeah, skipping meals, water only fat occasionally. There's a lot of things you can do to keep your mitochondria healthy.
Okay, so tell me what those things are.
I just exercise. You look like you're a pretty healthy guy.
Yeah, I go to the gym.
You don't look morbidly obese to me.
Not yet.
Not yet. Well, that's important because you don't ever want it yet.
We won't be in America too long, so my chances.
Yeah, well, and listen, it's not just the United States. We were kind of like the first ones to plow that field. But it's starting to spread everywhere. I think in China, they have the most 200 million obese people in China now.
So should I be on a keto diet then?
Here's what we did, okay? We developed the Glucose-Ketone index calculator at Boston College, all right, my students and I, because we were trying to work with cancer patients' blood sugar and ketones independently of each other. We had a ketone meter and we had a blood glucose meter. So we were monitoring ketones by itself and glucose by itself. And we worked with a very nice woman from American who lived in Nice, France, who since passed away from a brainstem tumor. It was very, very difficult. We kept her alive very long, but eventually we didn't know what we know now. But she got into an argument for a handicapped parking spot with her neighbor upstairs, and her blood sugar went through the roof. She ran upstairs and she took her blood sugar. And she says, "Oh my God, the tumor's gonna grow." I said, "What's your ketones?" And she says, "Oh, it's still 2.5 millimolar." Well, that's still pretty high. Usually it's very, very low. It's very high. So my students and I, we said, you know, this is too traumatic to try to measure these two independently. Why don't we make a singular number, divide the glucose in millimolar in the blood by the ketone in millimolar in the blood. Now you get this number that's much more stable. And it allows the cancer patient to know that if I keep this zone at 2.0 and below, my tumor cells aren't going to be able to grow very fast. I did this for the brain cancer, right? Now it's being used for all cancers. And now it's being used for guys like yourself who just want to stay healthy. Because what it is essentially is a quantitative determination if you're in the Paleolithic zone or not. Oh, so if I'm at 2.0, like my friend Dominic D'Agostino, he's always down in these zones. He's a Paleolithic man living in modern society.
What's a Paleolithic man?
That's how our ancestors were during the Paleolithic period.
Okay, so he's got the right balance of glucose and ketones in his blood.
Like we did when we were hunting mammoths and buffaloes and these kinds of things. When we were hunter-gatherers in the thousands of years of our existence as a species, tens of thousands of years, he is in that zone.
Is he in keto?
Yeah, well, that's what the low GKI is. That means you're at a level of keto.
Okay.
Now, yes, he doesn't eat a lot of carbohydrates in his diets. He eats leafy vegetables and a lot of meat and this kind of thing, sparingly on fruits. Like grapefruits, we learned from the epilepsy field, grapefruits provide a tremendous amount of vitamin C and do not spike glucose. So that's very interesting. So you can have certain fruits that can keep you in this metabolic zone of I call it the Paleolithic zone, which is the way we evolved, where there was no cancer in our existence.
When people hear that, they might start jumping on the paleo diet. I don't even know what the
Not
paleo
a paleo diet. It's diets that are low in carbohydrates, okay?
Okay.
Mediterranean diets. Like people say to me, God, what should I eat? Should I eat this and that? Normally, you would eat foods that have very low glycemic index, which means the speed with which glucose is released, like a banana, very high in glycemic index. You eat a banana, your blood sugar immediately spikes. Many fruits are like that. But you want foods that keep a low, steady GKI. Now, I built that calculator for brain cancer patients initially. Then we realized it's powerful for all cancers. We put the cancer patient in the low glucose-ketone index. We get them down in there. Then we come in with the glutamine targeting drugs to kind of polish off these tumors or put them in even a more dormant state. But now we're finding all these young kids, like yourself, all these 30, 20-year-olds, what's your GKI? I mean, they're out there weightlifting and they're looking at their they don't have cancer. They're just excited to see that they can get into this Paleolithic zone by themselves. And that will prevent cancer, because you can't get cancer if your mitochondria are healthy. If you're in a Paleolithic zone where our ancestors rarely, if ever, got cancer, then you're back in this. Oh, you mean to tell me I can't eat this and I can't eat that? What does it do to your GKI? Oh, it makes it go up. Well, don't eat that.
So you did a study on dogs, a dog with a tumor.
Yes.
Can you tell me about that study?
It was a woman came to me, and this is what I say. You don't have to have a PhD in biochemistry to understand what some of the things. This woman had no degree whatsoever. She just heard about what we did to these mice, and she did the same thing to her dog. It was a pit bull, and at age 7 years old, it had a big mast cell tumor on its lip. So she listened to my YouTube video over and over. She said to me, I just kept listening. She says, I got some raw chicken. She says, wolves evolved to eat chickens. So she got some chicken, chopped up the chicken. She cut the calories she found some dog food calculator to how much calories the dog was getting. She cut the calories. The dog lost only 5% of its body weight. She got pollock fish oil, raw eggs, and cut all the calories. Everything was all natural for this dog. And all of a sudden, we have the pictures. You can see them in the if you saw the picture. Big tumor on its lip. The veterinarian said this dog is going to survive, you have to give him chemo and radiation and surgery and all this kind of stuff. And it's going to cost a lot of money. The dog's going to have diarrhea. It's going to be, she didn't want any part of that. So she said, well, let's just try this metabolic thing. And she kept all the records and the pictures and what she did and how much she gave the dog and all this. So I was able to get all that information from her, put my friend Lauren Nations, who is a veterinarian, on the paper, because I said, what biology guy at Boston College is telling you how to manage cancer in a dog? We got to have some veterinarian on here to validate, to make sure he's there. And he looked at the pictures and we looked at all the thing. It disappeared. So what happened was the dog eventually died of heart disease at 15 and a half years of age. So essentially, that's the only, when people say, well, metabolic therapy cure cancer, I say metabolic therapy is never consider a cure for cancer. It's an effective, non-toxic management for cancer. But in the case of that dog, it appeared to work. It appeared to cure the dog. But that's the only one I'll say, oh, he's going to say cure cancer. No, that dog happened to he died from old age from a heart attack. And we did it with a brain tumor guy, Pablo Kelly, who just passed away, unfortunately, from a surgical. He had a major cerebral hemorrhage after his surgery from Devon, England. You know Devon, England?
That's where I'm from.
Are you from Devon?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, Pablo was there. He just passed away, unfortunately. We were talking to him the day before he passed away. Pablo Kelly. So he was from Devon, England, had a glioblastoma, which is the worst of the worst. They said, and he's all over your newspapers there in Devon. He was always sending me articles from England. Man rejects standard of care. So he had this glioblastoma, and they took the tissue out.
Which is brain cancer.
Yeah, the worst of the brain cancers, They took the tumor out, and they said, it's inoperable. And but if you do radiation and chemo, you might live 9, maybe 12 months at the most. Well, Pablo came from a family of, we don't dabble in this kind of medicine. We're more holistic kind of people. So he emailed me, this was in 2014, and said, I want to try this metabolic thing. So he rejected chemo and radiation, and they said it wasn't surgically capable of being completely removed anyway. So he did this. I gave him the information that I give to everybody, and this was way back before we knew a lot of what we now know. And I said, this poor guy, he doesn't want, and they said, you're going to be dead. They browbeat him. They try to force him to put the radiation mask on. They hacked his beard off, all this kind of stuff, and he just jumped up. He said, I can't do this stuff. So he didn't take any steroids. He didn't take any radiation. He didn't take any chemo. He just did the metabolic therapy, and he's on English television or things with all of his paleo diet, which actually a very low carbohydrate diet. He had the avocados there, he had the fish oil there, he had this different stuff. 3 years go by, he emails me. I said, "Jesus, Pablo, I thought you would have been dead. You're still alive. What's going on with that?" So he calls me up and he says, I went in for a CAT scan the other day. Doctors are still surprised that he's alive. And they said, this tumor is still there and it's growing. And they think they can cut it out now. So he was 3 years on just metabolic approach. He didn't take any glutamine inhibitors, which was really remarkable. So anyway, he asked me, and I have physician friends that are radiologists that can look at it. And we measured it when it was first diagnosed in 2014, and then we saw it did become a little bigger. So, now the surgeon said, I think I can get it. It looks more resectable. Here it was inoperable. Now it becomes resectable. So he took it out, and Pablo recovered really well. And the surgeon says, I think I got it all. Wow. And Pablo is measuring his glucose-ketone index with our ketone monitor. So I had every day, sometimes 2 and 3, 5 years of data on Pablo Kelly. Can you believe this? So anyway, Pablo thinks he's cured because the surgeon, all of a sudden he goes back to his kind of weak ways, and you can see his GKI goes up, and all of a sudden the tumor starts to show up again. Puts the fear of God back into him, goes back on a more restrict condition. Another 3 years goes by, and this time the tumor is growing slowly, very slow. Don't forget, glioblastomas kill you very quickly. With standard of care, you can barely get out of, at his age, if you can get 2 years, you're doing really good. So anyway, now he's 3, and he's got 6 years out, and he says, it's still back, he said, I got to go in. So this is second debulking. First debulking goes off, gets back on. Second debulking. So another 3 years goes by, he has a third debulking. Can you believe this?
A third debulking?
Debulking is cutting the tumor out. It's the surgical removal of this tumor. But he's never had radiation or chemo or any of the kinds of what we call standards of care. Now he has, I talked to him a couple of weeks ago, and he was doing really, really good. He had the third removal, and we were laughing with myself and Dr. Duryea and my associates. He says, yeah, can you imagine? I've had now 3 operations on a previously inoperable tumor. So we were saying, wow, they got that one wrong, didn't they, Pablo? And they kept wanting to irradiate him and do all this stuff. And he said, no, I'm going to keep doing this. And so we were speaking to him. And he's out 10 years. The tumor was diagnosed in August 2014, and he passed away August 2024 they tried to go in and get the last bit of tumor out of his brain. He came out, we talked to him, a thumbs up, smiling, talking like crazy. 6 hours later, cerebral hemorrhage, and he dies. So he didn't die from the cancer. He died from a surgical problem with the surgery. So he was you talk about long-term survivors. Mm-hmm. You rarely survive 2 years with a glioblastoma. The fact that he was out 10 years, and if he hadn't had that last bit of surgery, the guy would have still been alive. Because he was talking like you and I are talking. This is a guy who has a terminal. So I said to Pablo, I said, you could outlive me. I said, we're all terminal to some extent, right? All of us aren't going to live to. I said, sure, he was a young guy. He was only 22 or 23 when he was diagnosed. He was in his 30s now when he passed away. 10 years, so he's 33, 34 years old. And I said, I could be dead before you. And we were laughing, and we had a good time. And the next thing I know, I get an email from his wife. He said, Pablo is on brain dead and something. I said, what the hell happened? What happened to this poor guy? And it wasn't the cancer. So I don't know how long he would have lived, how many more things. But what I'm saying, he's an anecdote. Well, listen, if I had a drug that did what metabolic therapy did, and I could get more people like Pablo, are you kidding me? They'd be running all over the world.
And when you say metabolic therapy, you mean the combination of the calorie restrictive, ketogenic approach?
Yes. Avoiding. Well, first of all, you're avoiding things that are going to kill you. The radiation is going to kill you. For many people, not all people. Okay, everybody say, well, listen, you can look at go have people look at the data themselves, for crying out loud, and you can see how long you're going to live. He didn't do what they grab everybody in.
What did he do specifically?
He didn't take radiation or chemo.
Yeah,
and he brought his glucose-ketone index down to the 2.0 zone and kept it low. And he took some supplements and a few things here and there. But he wasn't really targeting the glutamine like we thought. We found now certain parasite medications will be effective in targeting glutamine. So we're doing all non-toxic strategies to manage cancer. You don't have to be brutalized by the system if you know what to do and how to do it. The problem is most of the poor oncologists never heard of what I'm talking. The stuff I'm telling you right now, they never heard of it.
The risk is someone gets cancer that's listening to this, or someone has cancer that's listening to this. I mean, statistically, there's a lot of people listening to this that have cancer right now. And they're speaking to their doctor, and their doctor is saying, chemotherapy, radiation therapy, et cetera, et cetera.
And glucose has nothing to do with tumor. Eat whatever you want.
Yeah, and so what do you say to those people who they've just got a diagnosis, and their doctors are saying, right, listen, this is pretty bad, severe. We're going to suggest that you take chemotherapy.
Yeah.
You're not telling them not to take chemotherapy, are you?
I'm not telling them that. And what we found is that when you are in nutritional ketosis with a glucose-ketone index of 2.0 or below, my colleagues that we work with in Istanbul, Turkey, were able to show that chemotherapies at much lower dosages can be even more therapeutically powerful when you're in nutritional ketosis. So you don't have to get rid of a lot of these different procedures that we have today. I'm just saying radiation for brain cancer. I'm not saying radiation for lung or some of the other cancers.
Okay.
Because if you can shrink those tumors down and make them very weak and vulnerable, a surgical procedure, a radiation procedure, even low-dose chemo could come in, and even immunotherapy. If you took a big tumor and shrunk it down to a small nub, and it's resistant to a lot of the things, they all have to share something in common for them to survive this path. That might be an immunotherapy could come in because they're going to target whatever all of them have together, and you could possibly get rid of it that way.
I'm thinking of a friend of mine that has been diagnosed with brain cancer, brain tumor. And this is one of the most, it's a woman in her 40s or 50s, trying to keep her anonymous as possible, who is just the most fit, athletic person that I know, eats amazingly well, is literally known for exercise. And I'd go, how? How is it possible that someone who I would probably say is fitter than I am, if you looked at their sort of metabolic health, has got a severe brain tumor?
Well, they can stay healthy for, and I'm not saying everybody who has, and it depends on what kind of a tumor it is as well. Is it a glioblastoma, oligodendroglioma, peanut, there's a lot of different kinds of tumors that
I know that it's not growing necessarily, but it's big and it's in the brain, and they're going to remove it through a surgical operation.
Well, if they can, what we always suggest for the brain cancer, if you do metabolic therapy up front, and I've had surgeons tell me this, you can shrink it down because it's angry. It's an angry thing, right? And you can see some slight invasion. If you can shrink that down so that it's more circumscribed, now the surgeon can look at it and go, oh my God. We know many scientific publications, the more you can debulk, that's called the removal of the tumor, debulking, the longer the patient will survive. The evidence is massive to support that. But with a lot of these brain tumors, you don't get it all. And there's always some little piece that remains. And when you irradiate, you explode the ability of the cells to ferment energy, and it's very hard to kill them. But if you can get the majority of it out and then transition the patient back into a metabolic state, keeping the pressure on those tumor cells, you can remain healthy like Pablo. I mean, these guys can.
And when you found in mice is that when ketogenic diet was combined with hyperbaric oxygen therapy, the average survival time was increased by roughly 80%?
Yeah, even more sometimes now. But okay, so why do we do hyperbaric oxygen, right? That's the question. What's going on with hyperbaric oxygen? Why is this like a good thing? It works best when the patient and the mouse is in nutritional ketosis. Okay, so look, we have a tumor. We irradiate that tumor. How does the radiation kill the tumor cells? It hits oxygen, blows up, and it causes a reactive ROS, and it's like a stepping on a landmine. It blows the tumor up, right? So cancer cells protect themselves, even though they make a lot of ROS. They're this close to death anyway, but they have a very powerful antioxidant system. And interestingly enough, besides causing the dysregulated growth, the glucose and the glutamine also protect them to some extent from the ROS that they're making. Can you believe this?
The ROS.
ROS, reactive oxygen species that are carcinogenic and mutagenic. So they destroy our proteins, lipids, and nucleic acids. They're disruptive molecules. So radiation will cause a ROS in the microenvironment, ROS, that'll blow up and kill cells, normal and tumor cells. But if you want to selectively kill tumor cells, with ROS, not to cause your hair to fall out, your gums to bleed, and all this crazy stuff, you take the patient, you put him in nutritional ketosis, and you say he's got low GKI. Then you go into hyperbaric oxygen, which dissolves oxygen directly into your blood now. It's better than just breathing 100% oxygen because you can actually dissolve oxygen in the bloodstream. then you're taking away the two fuels that protect the tumor and you're giving it internal ROS, which kills the tumor internally, only to the tumor cell, not to your surrounding tissues. So you're selectively killing tumor cells without collateral damage to the rest of your body. As a matter of fact, the rest of your cells are getting super healthy because they're burning ketones in pure oxygen. Unbelievable.
How do we measure if our...
Can you believe this? I can't even believe I'm saying this stuff myself. You really got to know the biochemistry, and you have to know the physiology of your own body, and you have to understand evolutionary biology.
Most people just aren't that intelligent, including me.
It's not intelligence.
Yeah, but most people kind of want things, sort of simple principles that they can live by and implement.
And also quick and easy.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, they don't want to do what I'm talking about it because it might be. Oh, the other thing. Let me tell you one thing and remember it. If you do metabolic therapy, success rides heavily on your shoulders. You're not sitting there like some pawn with mannequins, some guy's poisoning and irradiating you. To make metabolic therapy work, you are the one doing the GKI. You're the one. It's your soul. You're responsible for your existence on this planet. You're going to put your precious soul in the hands of someone who has less of a knowledge about the problem than you might.
As an entrepreneur, I'm always looking for ways to connect and to create, and that's why I decided to launch the conversation cards. I turned to Shopify, who also sponsors this podcast, and Shopify made it so easy to set up an online store and reach all of you, no matter where you are in the world. I remember the challenges we faced when we first launched the Diary of a CEO conversation cards, managing inventory, ensuring a seamless checkout process, and reaching our audience. Shopify stepped in and made everything so straightforward and efficient. It was like having an entire team of experts by our side, allowing us to focus on creating content and connecting with you. What I love about Shopify is, no matter how big you intend to grow your business, they give you everything you need to take control and take your business to the next level. And to say thank you for listening to this podcast, we're giving you a trial, which is just $1 a month, and you can sign up by going to shopify.com/Bartlett. The link is in the description below.
Could you be predisposed genetically to cancer?
Yeah, that's what those germline mutations, but you can manage that.
Because people think, my grandmother had breast cancer, my mother had breast cancer, so,
They live in a common environment too. It's not like in order to prove that, you and all the siblings would have to be raised in a different environment, different countries, different lifestyles, and then see if you all got cancer at the same time under all these different conditions. That's definitely genetic. That's like Huntington's disease, Tay-Sachs disease, or these kinds of things, where they'll manifest regardless of the environment.
So you're saying to me that I should, as a 32-year-old man that's cancer-free, God willing, thank God, touch wood, I should calorie restrict myself to keep my mitochondria healthy and my metabolism healthy now. I should be in a sort of a calorie restricted state.
I say it's good to visit the state. Our Paleolithic ancestors had no choice. There wasn't a donut shop on every corner. There wasn't pizzas. There weren't the kinds of highly processed carbohydrate foods available to them.
So should I be fasting? Should I be doing keto?
I don't want to tell you what you should or should not do. I'm not a physician here. I'm a scientist. I study what causes these things and I study how to manage them. You have to read what I'm saying and you have to come to your own decisions about how you want to conduct your life. I've given you information.
What's your view on fasting?
Fasting is a powerful way to get your body into nutritional ketosis, but it ain't easy. Try doing it. Try doing it. See how easy it is. It ain't easy, right? But that's why we developed this procedure where if you go, rather than going cold turkey and say, well, today I'm going to eat as much as I can, and then tomorrow, okay, you can go it's the second, third days when you start to really know what the hell's going on. And believe me, I've tried it. It ain't easy. That's why we developed a zero carb diet for 14 days, 10 to 14 days. Just zero. You eat meat, fish, chicken, whatever you want, but just don't eat any bread, pasta, this kind of thing.
On keto, how do we get into that sort of ketosis state that people often talk about?
Measure your glucose-ketone index.
How do I do that?
With the Keto Mojo meter. You can buy it from Amazon.
Okay,
you can buy. Now, don't forget, they get a free Libra meter now for the blood. They're working on ketone blood meters, but it's not there yet. Right now, the Keto Mojo or some other keto meters, where you can prick your finger like a diabetic, you take a glucose strip and you put it on the blood and you put it into the machine. It tells you what your glucose is. Squeeze your finger a little bit more, take the ketone strip, touch it to the blood, put it in the meter. It gives you the ketone value. Push the button, GKI comes right up. Okay, very simple. Everybody can buy it from Amazon, get the meter, buy the consumables. And then they can test it. This is what Pablo, this is what all the cancer patients, the ones who really want to get into metabolic ketosis.
I think I've tried keto before, and I say think because I didn't measure my ketone levels. So I was assuming I did.
Yeah, no, it's really, people say, well, I haven't eaten, I'm in ketosis. How do you know? Well, I blew into this thing and the bulb came out, I peed on a strip, it looked like it was ketosis. They are indirect measures. The most accurate is the blood measure. So
it's hard to stay in that state for most people, right? This is one of the things
because
I
the temptations in our society are so strong.
Yeah.
I mean, Paleolithic man had no choice. Do you think that was his state? That's all he knew for thousands and thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years. That's all he knew. He didn't say, oh, let me go down to get a big jelly-filled donut down at the end of the river there. No, there's none of that. He had to live in that state. Now we have so many temptations, all the things that we are biologically geared for. When you see obesity, that's evolution in action. They are the descendants of our long ancestors that could hold on to energy so efficiently. We were an energy-starved species for the majority of our existence on the planet. So anything we ate would be very little waste. We never pee out glucose. Glucose is converted to fat, and we store energy as fat. So those guys are energy-efficient human beings. Now all of a sudden we find ourselves with everything. And that's evolution in action, man. You're allowing to see how we can store energy so efficiently because our ancestors lived through such environmental forcing. We had famines, we had long treks, our body could store energy so efficiently because we had to store what little we could get from the environment.
But now you've got 300 million Americans in this food environment where when they walk out their front door, they see the Dunkin' Donut. They can lie in bed and order a Dunkin' Donut to their front door in 10 minutes.
You don't even have to unask the car. They hand it through the window.
Yeah, so
no energy expenditure, energy in.
So giving them this information might be fairly futile because the temptation.
Oh yeah, well I'm not here to tell people. Again, I'm not here to tell people what they should or should not do. I'm just here to explain why do we have all this? It's not mystery. It's all biological evolution. You understand biological evolution. Almost everything that I'm talking about makes perfect sense.